afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Ad America TV. Back with me, Maya Trainer. I'm one of the e-guides at Ad America, and we welcome our audience joining us online. We truly hope that you are doing well and staying safe amidst this outbreak. Well, anyway, for those of you who are first-timers here, hi, welcome to Ad America TV for the first time. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center. Our mission is to provide a space for young generations of Indonesia to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so you can enjoy our program from the comfort of your own home and help flatten the curve of COVID-19. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment box below, and our panelists will answer them later in the seminar. Now, today we will be having a discussion titled Ayo Study in the U.S. But as per usual, before we begin, we are going to have a social media quiz. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. The question is it true or false that California banned homework in 1901? I will repeat the question one more time. Listen carefully. Is it true or false that California banned homework in 1901? You can participate this quiz through our social media comment section, and stay tuned till the end of this program to find out if you get the answers right. Now, before we begin, here's an opening remarks from Ibu Emily Abraham, Assistant Cultural Attaché U.S. Embassy Jakarta.
Halo semua, saya Emily Abraham. Atas nama Kedutaan Besar Amerika Serikat di Jakarta, saya berharap Anda semua dan keluarga dalam keadaan sehat dan aman di masa yang tidak menentu ini. Thank you so much for joining us live on Ad America's virtual stage today. Cultural and educational exchanges have always been a priority for the United States, and they're an important part of our strategic partnership with Indonesia. So we're thrilled to have this space for continuing to gather with our friends, partners, and especially our exchange alumni, like the speakers you'll meet today. We started this program just before social distancing and COVID-19 entered our vocabularies, back in February and early March of this year. The format might be a little different, but the goal is the same: to connect young Southeast Asian leaders, or YCLEs for short, like all of you, with your peers across the country, across the region, and of course in the United States, to innovate together for a brighter future. Hundreds of U.S. exchange alumni are bringing their ideas, insights, discussion, art, and other programs to Indonesia's Ad America stage each year. So thank you to our panelists and our host today for helping us to introduce Ad America to new audiences, and most of all, for being part of the Keluarga Besar Alumni AS, giving back by sharing with your peers and with the classes that'll come behind you. I hope you all have some fun, learn something new, and are inspired to look out for the next opportunity to join in our programs, whether it's a course on resume writing, or systems theory through the U-Lab, a YCLE program connecting young Southeast Asian leaders, or a big dream of studying abroad in the US with the help of the Education USA advisors. Stay safe, everybody, and hope to see you again here soon. Da!
All right, that was an opening remarks from Ibu Emily Abraham. Now, one more thing before we begin, please don't hesitate to take a selfie, capture this moment, and share through your social media and let everyone know that you are having a great time with us here in Ad America. And don't forget to tag us on Instagram at ATAmerica. And now, without further ado, please welcome our moderator for today, Nabilla Musri, Yes Alumni 2015-2016.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
How are you guys doing?
I hope you guys are doing all right despite all this
pandemic thing.
So my name is
Nabilla. I am a former
yes
exchange student, students batch
2015 and 2016. And
I am delighted to see you guys
in this event
the topic of studying in the US, which is held by the US Embassy
in Jakarta
and
American
American
students
who are
USLY
alumni.
So in this event, our speakers, they will have presentations about their schools, like classes, lessons, schoolmates, teachers, activities in canteen, and how they are studying during this COVID-19 pandemic. And moreover, I will also share an education USA to provide you guys information on how to get updates about studying in the US from the USA at the end of the sessions. So before we're going to start the presentations, I want to say hi to the students from these following schools. SMA 1 Purworejo, SMA Unggulan MH Tamrin, SMA Yos Saudara Batam, SMA Pahoa, SMA 1 Solo, SMA Yayasan Fidrata Kalimantan Timur. I'm so sorry for the misspelling and everything. So I hope you guys have a good time, and please do not hesitate to ask questions, and please type your name and your questions in the comment section. So without further ado, we'll introduce our first speaker. It will be Samuel Wemmer. So Sam is a student from the Salem Academy Charter School in Massachusetts, and he is also the New Soloi alumni, and fun fact is actually interested to work in marine biology field in Indonesia. So hi Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hello semua, nama saya Sam. I live in Salem, Massachusetts, and I go to Salem Academy Charter School. So this is my family. Nama papa saya Todd, nama ibu saya Sherry, dan nama adik perempuan saya Annabelle. Salem is like a little town in northeastern Massachusetts by the ocean. We're about half an hour from Boston, if you know where that is. It's the capital city of Massachusetts. And in Salem, we have a lot of beaches and also like a moderate-sized downtown as well, with a lot of restaurants and a big tourism industry actually. And I'll mention more of that later. But this is my cat, Biscuit. So di Salem ada banyak sejarah. Like this is the custom house, and it's where goods were taxed and processed in like the colonial era. Because Salem was a really big trading city, and I know that there was a lot of trade between Salem and Indonesia actually, as well as lots of other countries. And famous writer Nathaniel Hawthorne worked here. And then speaking of Nathaniel Hawthorne, this is the House of the Seven Gables, which inspired Hawthorne's novel of the same title. And I used to actually go to preschool right in front of it, and they give tours, and you can go through the house, and it's like a historic house that was like passed down through many generations, so you can see how people used to live. And then right here is a memorial of the Salem witch trials, which were a series of events which happened in colonial Salem, where a bunch of women, and some men actually too, were accused of witchcraft, and they were executed because of it. So now kind of like the city's tourism industry is like built off of it, I'd say. But also there's a lot of respect for what happened. People want to, memorialize the people who were killed. But also each Halloween, we get like tens of thousands of people coming, and like it's a whole month-long event throughout October. So that's usually a really exciting, big part of living in Salem, I'd say. Oh, there we go. And di Salem ada banyak witch imagery. So like this top logo that I'm scrolling over is the like the mascot for the high school sports teams for the main high school. I go to the charter school, which is like a smaller, like federally funded school basically, but like the main high school, the public high school uses this as their sports mascot, and then also our police department uses a witch as their mascot. So like there's a lot of like basically witches are the mascot of the city. Like they're considered, you know, an iconic Salem mainstay, I guess you'd say. And on the wider scale of things, in Massachusetts, we like to go to beaches a lot. So my favorite beach is called Wingershik, and it's about a 30-minute drive in a town called Gloucester. And I really like it. It has really clear water. It's great for swimming. In Massachusetts, the beaches, like the water is usually pretty cold. So we like to go like on a really, really hot day. And as mentioned before, I really am interested in marine biology. And this area has a lot of rocks with a lot of like really diverse species that I like to go observe there. And then we live also about 30 minutes from Boston, and that's a nice big city. There's lots of restaurants, museums, things to explore. I have a few more slides about that coming up, but sometimes we drive, but I usually take the train if I'm going in with my friends. And yeah, there's usually trains, you know, going about every hour. And I think it might even be a shorter ride. Like if there's a lot of traffic, taking the train to Boston. And then you arrive in North Station and you can take the subway around. And so here's some photos of like trips that I take to Boston with my friends. Like this was a while before the pandemic, but I was getting dim sum with my friends. And then this is one of the museums in Boston that has a beautiful view of the harbor. And it has this huge glass window and you're looking out over Boston Harbor, and they also have a lot of really interesting contemporary art. And then here's my friend in front of the Massachusetts Bar Association. I attend Salem Academy Charter School, as I mentioned. It's really small. It's in an office park too. And I'd say it's not really the traditional high school experience that you'd expect. Like a lot of people, when they think of American schools, would think of, you know, a big high school football team, things like that. But Salem Academy is much smaller. We don't really have like a football team. We have a flag football team, but it's very different. We have a lot less sports. I'd say that they're more focused on academics, but also there's still a lot of clubs and stuff. It's just more do it yourself. So here's a map of the school. We have a gym over here. The main building is kind of in the middle, and then you can cross the street to get to either the gym or the arts complex. And as it says down here, they're always trying to expand the campus, but it's kind of complicated because of where we're located in this office park. But yeah, so all the classrooms are basically in here. And in the middle of the day, we can choose like an elective in the arts complex usually. And they have anything from like technology classes to theater classes to art classes to music classes. And probably one of my favorite classes I've taken at the arts complex is a rock band class, actually. And it was my first semester there, starting as a freshman. And the teacher was really nice. And basically the class was, you could pick up almost any instrument you wanted. And then, you know, someone could choose a song, and then everybody would just try to play it. And then at the end of the quarter, we all had a rock performance, and we played like Rolling Stones, the Beatles, lots of other like classic rock, like popular acts. It was really fun. I've also taken like a photography class there, a lot of other music classes, like a digital music class where we learn how to use music editing programs, and that was really fun. And then I've taken like, I know there's like drawing classes. I haven't taken a theater class yet, but I know that this year they're offering improv, which could be interesting too. And then in the gym, there's like a basketball court, and then also I think people will play indoor soccer in there. So here's like some everyday images from my high school just to show like some fun things I get up to with my friends. Like here's like an anime character one of my friends drew on a whiteboard. One of the classes I took was actually, it was just a walking class. It was kind of more for relaxation and exercise. And in the middle of the day, you and your friends can just go out for a walk with the teacher, and you just go, by the ocean or through downtown and try out a bunch of different routes. So this is my friend Harper and I, and our school is actually located next to this long jetty that goes out in the ocean. So that's where we're walking. And then these are two of my friends in my English classroom. And then some things that I like to do after school with my friends are up here. This is some of my friends at a sushi restaurant, and we were kind of celebrating because we had been doing some organizing for a climate strike group, and then we just planned a really big event that sadly was canceled because of the pandemic, but we decided to go out and get some sushi together. And other than that, yeah, I just like to, go out to eat with my friends a lot after school, or just go get snacks or something like that. This is a record shop in Gloucester, the town with a lot of beaches I was talking about before. And some of my friends really like to collect vinyl. I have a vinyl record player actually in my room, and this place is really cool. They have lots of CDs, records, cassette tapes, and posters, and all kinds of other music-related items. They also have movies, and it's just kind of like a throwback to vintage era type stuff. And this is the commuter rail that goes all the way up to Gloucester, which is the town 30 minutes north of us, and then it also goes all the way down to Boston and suburbs of Boston. This is just me with a drink I got at one of my favorite like bubble tea places near my school. And then in the background, this is like Salem Harbor, kind of up this little river type body of water, I guess you could say. And nearby is also the train station. Also, a lot of the activities my friends and I do, like organizing for climate strike, we do at the library of our local university, Salem State University. And this is my friend Nash, and we were just chilling out there, and he's, looking at some logistics stuff for climate strike, I think, in this photo. But it's a really nice library. They have TVs that you can stream things on, meeting rooms, like I think like 5 floors. It's a nice view. And then this is right before the pandemic, when my friends and I were getting brunch at this little breakfast place downtown. Salem's downtown is really charming, I'd say, because it has a lot of like stone bricks from the colonial era. There's lots of little Halloween themed shops. It's just a really nice place to visit, and I appreciate that. So the sports at my school, as I mentioned, we don't have a lot in terms of that, but some of our strongest programs are our track and cross country programs, and I run both of those. And so here, this is the boys team after we got second place in the cross country state championship, and we got this amazing trophy. It was really fun, and it was a crazy meet because everybody, like, I think exceeded the times actually that like the goal set for them to see if we could beat it. And then right here, a big part of high school in the US, I would say, is celebrating outgoing seniors, like before they go off to college. And it's kind of important to, they have senior prom, they have all these end of the year festivities. And this is in the fall, so it's not like they were leaving anytime soon, but it was their last cross country season. So they all had signs. We brought signs for them too, balloons. It was just a really big event. And then, oh, and cross country, if you don't know, is like a running sport, but you go through the woods actually, and the courses are usually about 5 kilometers. And I really prefer it to track, honestly, just because I like running longer distances, and also the scenery is really nice, especially in New England. You can see right here we have these beautiful like orange and red leaves in the fall. That's probably one of my favorite things about running cross country. And then track, of course, is done on like a flat circle. And I usually run like the 1 or 2 mile races, and sometimes like the 800 meter also, because I really prefer running long distance. And then here's another photo of the cross country trophy. And then as far as like this other sports that we offer, in the fall, Salem Academy has soccer, volleyball, cross country, flag football, and lacrosse. In the winter, we offer basketball, indoor track and field, wrestling, and dance. And then in the spring, we offer baseball, track and field, and dance. Salem Academy tidak punya banyak olahraga karena kecil dan tidak banyak murid. Mungkin kira-kira 480. So like we don't have a lot of students. Like 480, I think, is the total, because we have a middle school as well as a high school. I'm not sure the estimates for each one, but I'm sure the middle school is slightly bigger because there's 3 grades for it. But some of the sports have varsity and JV, which is like a designation in American high school sports, where it's like varsity is basically like the higher level, and then JV is the more casual level. But a lot of the sports only have varsity level, but pretty much anyone can join anyway. But you get like a varsity credit or a letter, which it's called, which is like this little pin. And for example, both of the sports I run, track and field and cross country, are considered like only varsity. But I think we have a JV basketball team. So as for the classes I take at my school, this year, like during the pandemic, it's looking like we're going to be online for the majority, if not all of the year. But I want to try to challenge myself as much as possible. So I'm taking all the AP classes that are offered, like in terms of each subject. Like at my school, we have to take 3 years of history, 3 years of science, 4 years of math, and 4 years of English. And I think either 2 or 3 years of a foreign language. The only foreign language offered at my school is Spanish. And it basically starts out Spanish 1, and then it goes up to Spanish 4. But then there's also an AP option, which is kind of the equivalent to Spanish 4. AP classes are like, I know they were mentioned in the previous presentation, like last week, but they're administered by a not-for-profit organization called the College Board, and they're considered like an entry-level college course type class. And at the end of the year, you have an exam, and if you score, so it's out of 5, and if you score 3, 4, or 5, you get college credit, depending on the college you're going to, at least. Like some colleges will only take a score of a 4 or even a 5, depending on how rigorous they are. So the AP classes I took last year were AP English and AP Human Geography, which my school didn't offer, but like I said, at my school there's kind of a spirit of like trying to be do it yourself, starting your own clubs, that sort of thing. So I kind of just did a self-study for that. But APUSH is just like a 2-year course about American history, and we cover like from the Civil War this year up until present day. The class is mostly writing essays, but I really enjoy it because we cover a lot of like obscure historical events that I haven't really heard of before. And although I do kind of criticize the fact that we spend so much time on American history, and I would like to learn more world history. It is a very interesting class. Last year I took AP Rhetoric, and it's pretty different from AP English literature, but hopefully it'll prepare me for the writing involved. And I think we're going to be analyzing like a lot of short stories, poetry, novels. That's pretty much what the test is about that I know of, but I think it'll be a pretty fun class as well. As for Spanish, the way it's taught in American high schools is very formulaic, I guess you could say. Like we do a lot of worksheets. I have to say I don't really enjoy it. Like after studying Indonesian this summer, that was really fun. It was a lot of speaking and listening, practicing conversation. But in Spanish, it's a lot more worksheets. But I'm thinking with the pandemic and being online this school year, I might devote some personal time to learning Spanish outside of school, maybe on an app like Duolingo, because my grandmother actually speaks it, and she's from Mexico, so that would be like a great connection for me to be able to speak Spanish with her. And it's something I've really wanted to do for a while, actually. Oh, sorry. And then math. The way math is taught in my high school is a bit different than most other schools. Like we have like math 1, 2, 3, and then you can take either stats or calculus. But in most other schools, they teach it like algebra 1, then geometry, then algebra 2. But my school kind of likes to mix them together, I guess. They kind of have a theory of like mixing math helps you remember it better. So you're covering a wider range of topics each year. Math, I feel like in the US is usually frowned upon by a lot of students, but I have to say, sometimes solving the problems can be pretty satisfying, to be honest, but it's not one of my favorite classes for sure. So the clubs at my school, like I mentioned, it's pretty easy to start a club. Last year when I was a freshman, I joined our Quiz Bowl club, and we actually signed up to be on this TV show called High School Quiz Show. And I don't know if you know of any types of show like this in Indonesia, but it's kind of, if you know Jeopardy in the US, it's like the equivalent to that sort of for high school students, but with more categories. So my friends and I practiced for about a year, and it was a pretty crazy story. Like we ended up on a wild card match to see if we could qualify to get on the show, because we were like just the last people in the roster, and then we actually won the wild card match, and then we made it on TV, and we almost beat this school by a little bit. They were a really like powerful team, and they'd been on the show for a lot of years. This is me at the wild card match. This is on the actual set of the TV show. This is my friend. So it's sponsored by like a local TV station, so they were giving out a lot of DVDs. And then this is my friend also getting some makeup before going on TV. So how we practice in our club is like we sometimes have like meetings early in the morning before school where we read official practice questions. And then there's also a lot of good apps, like down in the corner, if you can see this picture, it's like for specifically geography, which is a pretty big category on the show. And it covers a lot of basics, but then also like pretty obscure facts about geography. Like there's a lot of different levels of difficulty, I'd say. And then also, in my opinion, the best system is just to read random articles. Like I read a lot of random Wikipedia articles or books and stuff like that. Just staying curious is why I really like being on the team. Some of the other clubs at my school. Oh, before I go into that, sorry, you can play the clip.
In biology, what molecule comes in varieties, including messenger, transfer, and ribosomal? Yes, Tor.
Protein?
No, Salem Academy, you want to try it. Ajwa.
RNA?
Yes. Named after the town where the assembly met to adopt a new constitution, what was the name of Germany's government from 1919 to 1933? Yes, Bennett.
Frankfurt Parliament?
No, you want to try it? Yes, Sam?
The Weimar Republic.
That is correct. Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice famously begins, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a what?" Yes, Tor.
Woman.
No. Senator Academy? Yes, Lord.
Wife.
Wife is correct. The Soviet flag flew over the Kremlin in Moscow for the last time on Christmas Day of what year? Yes, Nash.
1989.
No, you want to try it, Belmont?
1991.
Yes. Now take a look at your screens. Here comes your next question.
Hi, I'm Matthew Patrick, creator and narrator of the YouTube web series Game Theory. You might also know me by my screen name MatPat. And here is my question. The Game Boy version of Tetris was the first video game played in space. In 1993, cosmonaut Alexander A. Serebrov packed Tetris for his mission aboard what Russian space station?
Mir is the answer there. Boy, he's got a lot of energy, doesn't he, that gentleman?
So that's the show that we were practicing to get on. And it was like a dream of ours for a long time. So it was really exciting to be on it finally. And my math teacher is actually the one who helped us practice to get on that show. And yeah, it was quite a journey. And I really enjoyed practicing, you know, all the early mornings and, you know, reading articles. But sadly, all those people are now seniors. But this year I'm going to try to form another team with some of my younger friends. So some of the other clubs at my school that I participate in are Philosophy Club, National Honor Society, History Bowl, Model United Nations. And in that club, I actually represent Indonesia. And then I also started a little book club this year. And another really popular activity, I'd say, with high school students in the US is attending concerts. And this past year, I went to a lot of concerts. Like, this is the Strokes, a pretty popular like alt-rock band in the US. And they're actually playing at a Bernie Sanders rally that I attended. This is a local band that was playing at a coffee shop in Salem called Crimps that I really like. And then these two photos over here are from Streetlight Manifesto, which is a ska punk band, which is kind of like a fusion of like Jamaican ska music with like, you know, like American punk rock. So like, you know, a lot of electric guitars and bass guitar, but also like saxophone, trumpet. They were all really fun shows. And then speaking of the Bernie rally I attended, so this is a climate strike I was talking about organizing earlier. So after I attended this, I got together with a lot of my friends and we decided we wanted to do like some grassroots organizing in Salem around the climate strike movement. And this is in Boston, like right near the State House. And I don't know, you might be able to see my friend up there. Maybe not. But it was a really big march. This is inside the State House. We stayed in there for like multiple hours. It was a really powerful protest, I'd say. And I know that a lot of the people in this movement are also like doing Zoom calls even now with like state legislation and our representatives about trying to enact more sustainable laws in terms of climate change. And then over here on the right are actually two separate Bernie Sanders rallies I attended with my friends. This one on the top is on the Boston Common. And this one on the bottom was in New Hampshire, the night of the primary election, like for the Democratic nomination. And this is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a really popular representative from New York, who's very progressive, and she's like an ally of Bernie Sanders. So finally, that brings me to service learning, which is a pretty unique part of my school, I'd say. Like, I had a lot of US high schools, I think they have a program for community service, but in Salem Academy, they teach in a very specific way. They want their students to understand how to create a plan to do community service and in a way that's effective and they're actually thinking through the steps. There's a planning part, and then there's the action, and then the reflection. Here's a bunch of students. I'm not in this group, but they were volunteering at Life Bridge, which is a local homeless shelter. And I think they were probably distributing food or maybe processing donations. Here's actually a quote from my school about service learning. Service learning provides an opportunity for students to apply their academic learning to fieldwork and service to Salem and the greater community, and the school collaborates with many local and national or international organizations in order to facilitate these experiences. And last year for my service learning project, we did a lot of marine conservation actually, which was very interesting to me because I want to study marine biology. And we were working with a local group called Salem Sound Coast Watch, and they're like a nonprofit that basically monitors invasive species, water temperature, erosion, and lots of other factors affecting beaches in Salem. And we did a lot of beach cleanups. We did a video about awareness, and we also went on a whale watch too, which was really fun. So there was aspects where we're just observing the ocean as well. And then this year, or I guess this school year, it was partially last year too, I was part of a gender equity service learning group, and we were making a lot of plans, but sadly they were all for being in person in school, and we didn't really get to enact them. But we were planning on doing a fundraiser / bake sale to kind of challenge gender norms around baking roles, like saying men can bake too, but just a bigger picture type event where we're saying we're trying to challenge gender stereotypes. And I know in the past that service learning group also has painted quotes, put up posters, done events to bring awareness, I think they've worked with the homeless shelter as well for vulnerable women and things like that. And I really enjoy participating in service learning because it kind of can bring the school together around something that is helping out our community. Terima kasih. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And I guess I'll answer questions later when it comes to that section about my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sang. It was an interesting presentations. So for the next presentations, we have Isabella Kate. She is a student at Maggie L. Walker Governor School in Richmond, Virginia. And she's also the alumni as well. And fun fact, Isabella is the president for ASL Club at our school. Wow, fun, Isabella. Well, Isabella, are you ready?
I am.
Well, yeah, you can start now.
All right, let me share my presentation. It should be loading.
Yes.
All right. Nama saya Isabella dan saya akan berbicara tentang sekolah di Amerika. Saya tinggal di Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia di dekat Washington DC, ibu kota Amerika. Kita punya Sungai James. Ketiga orang suka berenang dan melakukan olahraga air. Saya pergi ke sungai dengan teman-teman banyak. Hal lain yang populer untuk dilakukan adalah festival semangka. Ini foto di festival. Saya belajar di Maggie Walker Governor School di Richmond, Virginia. itu di antara sekolah umum dan sekolah swasta. Saya tidak membayar uang untuk hadir, tapi saya harus mendaftar. It's kind of a unique school in that it's also focused on government and languages. So our school offers, I think, around 11 different languages, even though we are a small school. So I actually am close to fluent in about 4 languages.
Isabella, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but can you please turn on your camera?
Oh, it should be on. Is it working?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, yes, it is working.
Okay, I don't know why I turned it off. All right, this should be loading again. Komputer saya pelan-pelan, kadang-kadang. All right, sistem sekolah di Amerika, ada banyak orang di sekolah umum, namun keluarga kaya akan mengirim anak-anak mereka ke sekolah swasta ketika sekolah umum buruk di suatu daerah. Di Amerika kita punya sekolah dasar, sekolah menengah, dan sekolah menengah atas. Anak-anak harus bersekolah sampai mereka berusia 16 tahun. Jadi kira-kira 88% murid lulus sekolah menengah atas. Siswa Amerika mengambil 6 sampai 8 kelas per semester dan pergi ke sekolah September sampai Juni. Can you please play the video? It's just about school differences between America and other countries.
Special correspondent Kavitha Cardoza with our partner, Education Week, met with international students to ask them firsthand about the differences. It's part of our weekly series, Making the Grade.
Calvin Leong loves soccer.
I've started soccer really young, and I just can't stop playing soccer because it's really fun.
2 years ago, Calvin and his family moved to the US because of his father's work. His mother, Margaret, says if he was still living in his home country, Hong Kong, just like his former classmates, Calvin would have had to give up soccer.
Calvin's friends in Hong Kong have to give up playing soccer because they have to focus and concentrate in their studying.
She says there are only a few universities in Hong Kong, so competition is fierce.
That's why the parents would like them to have extra lessons, even after school for almost 6 hours. So I think they can balance studying and extracurricular activities here.
Other countries have at times wrestled with that lack of balance, and some have even turned to high-performing US schools for lessons in building student skills, such as creativity and collaboration. But academically, when Calvin moved here, he found general classes much easier in the US.
In Hong Kong, math-wise, it's definitely super competitive, and everyone move in the same pace, so it's pretty hard to catch up if you fall behind. But in America, you can choose your own pace.
Calvin loves the diversity of US schools and says he's made lots of friends, even if many of them don't know where he's from.
When people ask me about Hong Kong, I connect Hong Kong with the Hollywood movies they saw, like the Transformer and the Batman.
Hong Kong is also known for being a place that does very well on international tests. Unlike the US, where the academic performance this year was lackluster. The US ranks in the middle of the pack when it comes to reading and science. In math, it ranked 31st out of 35 countries. The PISA test is taken every 3 years by 15-year-olds from dozens of countries. What makes this test interesting is that it doesn't gauge what students can memorize. In other words, what you can Google. The PISA test looks to see what students can do with what they know.
They are asked to interpret texts, solve mathematics problems.
Andreas Schleicher oversees the PISA test. He says the school systems of today are the economies of tomorrow.
You look at a country like Korea in the 1960s. Korea had the level of the economic development of Afghanistan today, one of the least developed education systems. But it got education right. It became one of the most successful economies. The power of education to transform societies and generate, both economic and social outcomes is just tremendous.
Economic prosperity, international competitiveness, national security. Those are a few of the reasons countries take education and, by extension, these rankings so seriously. As President Obama said back in 2009, countries that out-educate us will outperform us. The US spends markedly more money compared to other developed countries on education, but by high school, American students fall behind. Schleicher says it's not about how much a country spends on education, but how it spends the money. He says in other countries, it's all about teacher quality.
And I'm not only talking about making teaching financially more attractive. I'm also talking about making teaching intellectually more attractive. And that's probably where the United States is furthest away from some of the highest performing education systems, where you really have a much greater investment in the quality of teaching.
US Secretary of Education John King has one word for the results.
Well, I'd say that we're disappointed.
King says the Obama administration has championed educational best practices. For example, an emphasis on teacher quality and early education. Many states have also adopted the Common Core, which sets high standards of what children should know at each grade. But, he says,
one of the challenges in our system, different from many of our international competitors, is that it is a highly decentralized system. So change takes a particularly long time.
A lot of people say, it's not fair to look at these results and compare us to other countries which are more homogeneous.
Sure, we have to be cautious as we look at these results. At the same time, we can look at a country like Canada. It's had a very large influx of immigrants over the last few years and is doing better. We can look at countries around the world like Poland, which is a country that has significant population of low-income students, and yet they've made a lot of progress over the last decade, and we should ask why.
Julia Kempster and her family moved from New Zealand to Maryland earlier this year. She gets asked a lot of questions from classmates.
Can you talk for me? Can you say the number 10 for me? Is it true that there's one person to every 65 sheep?
You got much homework?
School is very different in the US. More students, more tests. But the biggest difference, Julia says, is in New Zealand, she had to interpret and analyze information a lot more.
Here it's like you get everything from the book. It's like the facts of the facts, and yeah, there's lots of dates you have to memorize because everything's like very important, and it's not a lot about what you think, but what's in the book.
Despite the differences, Julia's a typical teenager. She loves the social aspects of her US school.
In America, you have lots of dances and social things that you get to go to, which is very fun. You get to do, obviously, homecoming and everything like that. Yeah, it's fun.
American high schools place a huge emphasis on the social life of teenagers.
And that's part of the problem, says Tom Lovelace with the Brookings Institution. He says homecoming, prom, rallies may help teach teamwork and creativity, but don't improve academics. He says we need to look at the role culture plays in reinforcing education. Lovelace surveyed almost 400 foreign exchange students who spent a year in an American high school and asked them about the relative importance given to math and sports.
I asked them, among your friends, among your peer groups, how important is it to be successful at mathematics? And they said, well, the foreign exchange students said, well, back home it's fairly important whether or not you're good at mathematics. In the United States, not so much. And then I asked about sports. How important is it to be a good athlete? And with both boys and girls, and no matter from what country they came from, they said in the United States the emphasis on being a good athlete was much more important in the United States than back with their peer groups in their home country.
There is a bright spot when it comes to this year's PISA test results. The gap between rich and poor students in the US is closing faster than any other developed country. But it'll take a lot more effort to reach the top. For the PBS NewsHour and Education Week, I'm Kavitha Cardoza reporting from Bethesda, Maryland.
All right, yeah, so that was just a little bit about US versus other school systems and what it is like to study here. Universitas di Amerika, kira-kira 66% di lulusan SMA mendaftar di universitas. Ada kira-kira 4.000 universitas di Amerika. Universitas swasta sangat mahal, jadi banyak yang pergi ke universitas negeri atau perguruan tinggi negeri. Di sini ada krisis pinjaman mahasiswa ketika orang tidak mampu membayar pendidikan mereka. Opsi lain untuk siswa adalah sekolah perdagangan, menjadi tukang ledang, montir listrik, etc. Dan ini universitas di Amerika, ini UVA di Virginia, ini Georgetown, dan ini Universitas di Richmond. Tahun ini saya belajar ASL lanjutan, fisika, statistik, perminta komparatif, psikologi, sastra Inggris, dan mentorship, which is kind of like a research class where I spend some of my time interning with a doctor in a hospital. Ini contoh lain dari kelas yang saya ambil. Di Amerika, kita juga punya kelas AP untuk mendapatkan kredit universitas selama SMA. Sam spoke a little bit about AP classes, but basically, if you earn a high enough score, you can earn college credit. Saya ambil 8 kelas AP selama SMA. Hidup sekolah di Amerika, makan siang di Maggie Walker kami bisa makan siang ketika saja di dalam gedung. Waktu makan siang sekitar 40 menit. Anda bisa membeli makan siang atau membawanya, dan ada microwave untuk memanaskan makanan. Another big feature of American high schools are spirit weeks or pep rally, Minggu Semangat. Kita punya Minggu Semangat di musim gugur, dan kadang-kadang musim semi. Ada hari berdandan Raleigh Semangat, pertempuran sinkronisi bibur, dan hari lapanggang. So our school uniquely has lip sync battles between our different grades, and usually always the seniors win. Setiap kelas bersaing satu sama lain untuk memainkan paling bersemangat. Then another important feature of high school here are school dances atau tarian sekolah. Ada 2 tarian besar, prom dan kepulangan homecoming. Murid-murid kenakan pakaian mewah, berfoto bersama, dan pergi ke sekolah untuk tarian. Alright, aktivitas saya setelah sekolah. Saya di klub ASL, saya presiden di klub kita praktek ASL, seperti BIS Indo, dan mengadakan acara tentang budaya tunarungu. Dan saya ambil foto-foto dengan kamera film dan membuatnya di kamar hitam. Saya belajar fotografi di sekolah di atas foto saya itu. Dan sandiwara, saya manajer panggung. Kami punya 2 permainan per tahun, dan tahun ini kami membentuk keluarga Adams, the Addams Family, dan Almost Maine. In my school at Maggie Walker, we are required to get at least 140 volunteer hours during our high school experience. So saya relevan dengan modul cacat dan tulis selama musim panas. Saya mengajar murid tentang perangkat komunikasi, dan saya juga presiden di klub ramps, where we build wheelchair ramps for those who can't afford it. Olahraga, sekolah di sini punya sepak bola Amerika, so like football. Tapi sekolah saya terlalu kecil. Olahraga besar kami adalah trek dan hoki lapangan. Kami biasanya memenangkan kejuaraan negara bagian untuk ini. So field hockey and track and cross country are the big sports at my school. And instead of our homecoming game being for football, it's usually for field hockey. This athlete right here is Mary Caroline Heinen, and she's actually ranked like 8th in the country. She goes to the Junior Olympics usually every year. Dan sekolah sebelum dan sesudah pandemi. Sesudah sekolah saya virtual musim gugur ini, jadi kita punya kelas melalui Zoom 4 hari per minggu. Tidak ada aktivitas setelah sekolah. Sekolah lain melakukan hibrida antara sekolah langsung dan sekolah virtual. My sister's school is doing this hybrid model, whereas mine is doing more of a virtual school. But hopefully we can go back to full school if the pandemic gets under control here. All right, terima kasih.
Thank you, Isabella. So everyone, if you guys have any questions, please write your name and your school or your city in the comment sections. So far, we've received like 4 questions. The first questions we have from Hafiz Wasis. So the questions is, how is the housing conditions there? Is it affordable, and how much is it, like perhaps the range for it? So do you guys want to answer the questions?
Yeah, I can answer.
Yeah.
So it depends on where you live in America. If you live in New York, the housing is going to be extremely expensive, and you're probably only going to be able to afford like a really small apartment. But if you live in like a smaller city or you live in the suburbs, housing is pretty cheap.
So is there like tax-free states in the US?
Not usually.
I do know that people will drive to New Hampshire to buy computers from Massachusetts to avoid sales tax. And as for like housing in Massachusetts, it's pretty expensive. And like also New England in general.
Yeah. So basically like big cities are like more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, please continue.
Oh yeah, sorry. You can go ahead.
So let's say like over 50 states in the US, like which state is the cheapest state to live in?
I'd say probably like Florida. maybe.
Florida?
Yeah, Florida
Oh,
or
sorry.
like a state in the Midwest, like Wyoming, where you can buy land for like really cheap.
I thought like the like Washington State is cheaper because they say I don't know about this, but they said it's like much cheaper because the tax is like like not as expensive. So is it true or not?
I'm not sure, but yeah, they might have really low property taxes or something.
Well, thank you guys. So Hafiz, I hope that answered your questions. And the next questions we have from Rina Dura. She said, if you guys go to the university, is it like IB? Is it required IB or your GPA as the requirements? Like what are the requirements to go to the university over there?
So
Do you mean like
I'm actually in the process of applying to colleges right now. So we take the SAT or the ACT, which is kind of a standardized testing. And usually to go to Ivy League colleges, you have to have like a fairly high score on that. GPAs for schools are all different because they all weight it differently. So it's hard to compare that, but usually like for Ivy League or like top colleges, you're gonna want like all A's. And the Common App, which is what most colleges use here for our applications, it also includes an activities and honors section. So that's a really big part of colleges making their decisions about you is like what extracurriculars have you participated in. And then finally, usually you submit an essay, a personal statement about yourself, so they can get to know you. Do you have anything to add, Sam?
No, I am not applying to colleges yet, so I think you know like a lot more about that than me. Although I do live next to a lot of like Ivy League schools, like in Boston, there's Harvard. So like I go there a lot for like events and stuff. Like each year there's like a quiz bowl tournament there, which is really fun.
So I heard that you guys took like so many AP classes, like Isabella took like 8 AP classes, which is crazy for me. Well, how do you guys like balance your life, like social life and like school life? Because like AP classes took so much time. And yeah, how do you have social life?
So my school is kind of different than most American high schools because like the emphasis is placed on academics, not sports. So yeah, kids will take, I know people who will take like 10 AP classes like throughout their high school experience. So for me, I usually try to get my homework done like on Friday night sometimes, and then I'll hang out with my friends like more on Saturday and Sunday. But definitely I do the like extracurriculars and the homework. I can't really hang out with friends after school. But yeah, I try to hang out with people on weekends.
You're like the top-notch student, aren't you? So what about you, Sam?
For me, I would say like the AP classes I've taken so far haven't been extremely rigorous. Like I've taken like an AP English class, and then I self-studied for human geography, and then also in my school the A-Push is actually like a 2-year course, so we have 2 years before we take the test. So the first year was pretty easy, I'd say, and I'm predicting that this year will be more rigorous because I'm taking more, and also AP science classes are usually considered the hardest.
Yeah.
And I'm taking AP bio, so but we're going to be online also, so I wonder how that'll affect it. But yeah, to balance my schedule, I just try to do a lot of homework at school when I have free time, to be honest.
So do you like hang out a lot with your friends, or you just hang out like in the weekend?
It actually kind of varies a lot. Like sometimes I'll have tons of essays, like a big project, and I have to say, like, I'm not exactly always doing things ahead of time. Like sometimes a lot of people you'll find in American high schools will like wait until the day before something is due, are always like doing it at lunchtime right before the class, sometimes to try to like, you know, balance their work so they can have more time for their friends. And I try to do that without, you know, affecting my schedule in a negative way. So like sometimes I'll procrastinate a little bit, but make sure that I get everything in on time. Like I don't turn in things late generally. But yeah, I try to have a lot of time with my friends because I'd say I'm like a pretty social person, so I don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to make it work, I'd say.
Well, speaking of Ivy League, you guys have any, you know, like intentions like going to Ivy League schools? Like considering Isabella is going to college next year, like, right? You're going, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually applying early decision to Cornell. So that's kind of like my dream school. But definitely like I'm applying to other schools that are easier to get into also. But Ivy League colleges like are pretty small, so most people don't go. Usually, like for my school, there's probably about like five to like 8 kids who go to Ivy League.
Yeah, they're like very hard, and those are like, I don't know, like they're like wow.
Yeah.
And next questions we have from Anisha Salsabila. She asked, is there like any like how many AP classes can you take in a semester?
So at my school, you're honestly allowed to take as many as you want. Your guidance counselor just has to sign off on it. But we take 8 classes every year. So like you could take up to like 5 or 6 APs for a year.
So there's like no limitations, like the maximum amount of AP classes.
Yeah. There's no limits at my school.
What about your school, Sam?
As I mentioned in my presentation, my school is pretty small, so we don't actually offer that many AP classes. I'd say there's a good range, like a couple math ones. It's a pretty good variety, but there's a lot of history ones that a lot of schools offer that we don't offer, like AP European History or like AP World. I think we're getting AP World History though. But if you really want to like go out of the way, you can take those classes online, but then you'd have to pay for them yourself and also the tests. But yeah, I did have a friend who he got into Stanford amazingly. Like he's really like a really hardworking person, and he took a lot of AP classes online that our school didn't offer. Oh, and I should have mentioned in my presentation also, there's a program in our city where you can take a college class at the local university for free each semester, which is really great. So I was taking some philosophy classes.
Oh, philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it like a hard class or what?
It was actually not as hard as I was expecting. I took medical ethics, and we did a lot of like case studies, where you'd have to apply like different types of ethics to say, you know, someone is in a coma, in medical situations like that. It was a really interesting class, and you can take like all kinds of things at the university.
Interesting. So Sam, like, you're like in the quiz ball cup. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of hard. I think like you gotta know like all those things, like from the science part to the I don't know, like the geographic thingy. Like, how do you study from that? Like aside from taking the quizzes online or like just read random you know, like articles.
I'd actually say that on our quiz bowl team, each person kind of has their own specialty. Although I'd say I'm kind of like the more general person who knows a little bit of everything. but my friend Nash knows a lot about geography. He is going into like city urban planning at Cornell, actually. He knows like, I think pretty much the capital of like every country in the world, like about hundreds of different cities. It's just something he studies really passionately. My friend Lordrick knows like a lot about literature, more ancient history. He knows a lot about science too. And then my friend Adjoa knows a lot about like pop culture, like Broadway plays. She also has a good deal of like science knowledge, and also like a good deal of history. Like I think we're all pretty well rounded, but then we all also have our areas of specialty. So like that's what made us such a good team. So I'm gonna try to recreate that this year.
Yeah, it was actually like such an achievement, like going to the United competitions and like even on air and TV. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So speaking of AP classes, like do you guys like write a lot, like articles or like papers? Like do you guys do that a lot?
I'd say for me, I write a fair amount of papers. Yeah.
Yeah. For my AP English class last year, I wrote like one paper every week, usually, which was a lot. But for my other classes, it was more like once a month or like once every few weeks. And we also do a lot of like practice time writings in AP classes, because usually like you only get like 40 minutes for an essay. So like we do a lot of those in class as well.
Well, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like the students like over here, like some of them are in the IB curriculum and they're interested in going to the international universities, like Ivy League schools. And they wanted to ask like how, like what are tips and tricks to write, like papers and articles and just anything that isn't required or needed for the like writings in general.
Just to like get in, or once they're already at college?
I mean, do you have like tips and tricks like how to like write like write a good paper, an article or something?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely like they'll be required to like write their personal statement if they want to go to an Ivy League college. And really, I was actually working on mine yesterday, and probably like the best advice I have is to like try to be like really authentic and use your voice and focus on your experience, like not what you think they want to hear, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. What about? Sorry.
Oh yeah, and definitely like everybody has like a unique experience to share, and especially coming from Indonesia, like they want to hear that.
Thank you. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like trying to be really authentic. Maybe not like trying to present yourself in a unique way. Like don't go for like, for example, like people will try to give you a lot of tips when you're writing a college essay. And I wouldn't say like try to adhere to them super strictly because you don't want it to be too much like following a formula. And yeah, like college essays honestly are kind of a mystery to me. Like it's really hard to understand what they want usually. But I think kind of stepping outside of trying to figure out what they want and then just doing like what you need to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or what you think is right, like kind of just trusting your gut is sometimes the best way to go. And also getting an outside opinion, maybe from like a teacher that you have a good relationship with.
Oh yeah, the power of preparations. So do you guys, like, I mean, it is like pretty usual for us over here to, like, we're just kind of somewhat give up on studying or learning new things because we get bored easily because everything is going in the same pace. Like, do you guys have like do you ever feel like, oh my God, I'm not gonna do this anymore? And if you do, like, how do you guys overcome it?
I would say like it's at my school it's like pretty easy to get like overwhelmed with like the work and like the sheer volume of it and like some of like the kind of like deeper like analysis is like they ask you to write. But honestly, I think like what helps me is just I want to be a doctor, so kind of like staying focused on my goal, and like knowing that like I have to like complete this work to like go to college to then go to med school to then be a doctor. It's having something to like stay focused on in the future really helps.
Interesting. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, I'd say at school, like it can get overwhelming at times, especially around like midterms and finals, which is like a pretty big part of your grade, or like, just when any big test is coming up and you say like, oh, I just don't want to study for this test anymore. I don't want to write this paper anymore. But I feel like I can always overcome that, like as well. So like trying to think further in the future, like, for example, like if you don't do well on something, it might bring your grade point average down, and then you have to work harder later to bring it back up. And I try not to obsess over it too, because there's also important things like getting into college is not grades are just a small part of it. Like you also have to be well rounded in like clubs and sports and volunteer work and internships and jobs and all that. So I try to live like as full of a life as I can and do like other interesting hobbies and projects while also, just trying to maintain what I think is like a good like standard of effort academically.
Yeah. So it is like pretty unusual to feel overwhelmed. And we also have a question from David. Do all high school in the US take 4 years and start in grade 9, or is it only applicable in some states?
So like probably like 90% of high schools do grades 9 through 12 and take 4 years. There are some like older schools that will start high school at grade 8. Like I know in Powhatan County in Richmond, they start high school in 8th grade, but that's like kind of rare.
What about in Massachusetts?
Yeah, in Massachusetts, I'm pretty sure every high school starts at grade 9. I think one of the states that is different is I think in Utah they start later, if I'm not mistaken. It might even be earlier. I read it a while ago, but yeah, there's definitely like a few exceptions, but like for the most part, you can find people starting in 9th grade.
Yeah. So there's another question. Was learning Bahasa Indonesia challenging? Like, since Sam said it was a lot of speaking and everything, like not much of paperwork. So did you guys find it, challenging?
I personally thought it was easier than learning Spanish, which was like the first foreign language I learned. Because Bahasa Indonesia doesn't have verb conjugations that you have to memorize. So that part was easier, and also like the pronunciation's like very similar to Spanish. So it kind of like was like a little bit more natural for me. And I definitely like enjoyed the way our teachers taught. I think like we got so much better at speaking and like actual like functional like expressive skills. That it took me like years to learn in Spanish, like where I learned it in like a few weeks in Bahasa Indonesia.
Yeah, I totally agree with it all about that. Like, I haven't learned any other foreign languages besides Spanish in school, but I've been studying it since like I think about 5th grade or maybe 6th grade. And yeah, I've learned more in my Indonesian classes than I have in like all those years of Spanish class, to be honest, just because of the way it's taught. Like our Indonesian classes were like so like fun and personable, and like you come into the classroom and it's just immediately like, oh, how was your day? What did you do today? Like, how are you? And a lot of like just like common conversations you would have. So you get a lot of practice, and almost the whole class is in Indonesian. So you're really immersed to the point that you could be in a Zoom meeting because it was just all Indonesian language. But then in Spanish class, they try to do that, but also it's the constant tests and the worksheets make it hard to focus on actually trying to learn the language versus trying to bring your grade up, which is like my biggest criticism of Spanish classes in the U.S. probably.
So yeah, too much paperwork is sometimes overwhelming too. So there's like one last question. What is something you guys don't like from the U.S. schools or education system?
So personally for me, it's kind of like in the vein with what we were just talking about. Like students in America, like most often don't graduate high school proficient in like any other language. Whereas like students like especially like in Europe and like Asia, will know like 3 or 4 languages by the time they graduate. And like really like most people from like normal high schools will just kind of graduate with like a kindergarten level of Spanish. It's like not really like useful. So I wish like we taught like immersive like languages from like a younger age, the way they do in other countries. Because I think like a lot of other countries like think Americans like aren't like they don't know much about like foreign places and other countries, and I think that would help to create some more like intercultural learning, like broaden our students' horizons.
Yeah,
yeah.
I really agree with that. Like I was gonna say pretty much that, but I guess expanding off of it in another direction, like you were saying about like intercultural learning as a result of learning other languages. And I think that in U.S. schools, we focus way too much on American history. Like every year, am I like, what is it now? Like 10 years of school, 11 years of school have been like focused on U.S. history, and we just completely, and maybe some European history too in high school, but it's very like Eurocentric, and I feel like we don't focus on Africa, Asia, Oceania, South America, and cultures that aren't European, which is a really big problem. Like in the way that American school like shapes American students' viewpoint of the world. Like being exposed to learning about other cultures from a young age is really important, I think, for like in your video, Isabella, I was mentioning like American students, thinking critically, learning to like analyze other cultures with a critical eye, like in a respectful eye as well. I think it's probably one of the biggest things that the U.S. is lacking compared to other countries in the world right now. And I think that instead of like, spending 2 years on an A-push and then another year on world history, which is really just European history at my school, we could have done maybe like African history, Asian history, even more specific to different countries, if you wanted to study a specific country. Yeah. I think that would be really beneficial to American high school students.
Yes. Thank you guys for all the answers and the presentations and everything. So, from all these questions, there's like so many people who are interested in going to the U.S. schools and universities. And the U.S. Embassy have this Education USA. What is Education USA? It is a U.S. Department of State network over 400 international students advising centers in more than 170 countries, including Indonesia. And there's like advisors over accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the full range of higher education and opportunities available to help international students to find their best fit U.S. higher education institutions according to their needs, skills, and goals. And also, Education USA offer free one-on-one or group consultations, information sessions, mentorship programs, pre-departure orientations, and U.S. higher education fairs. Interesting. And also, Education USA in Indonesia has 8 centers located in Aceh, Medan, Jakarta, Malang, Surabaya, and Makassar. So if you guys are interested, so you can check the educationusa.state.gov and follow their social media for further information. Yeah, you can see it down below, educationusa.state.gov, and yeah, and etc. So I hope that these events provide adequate information for you guys about winning scholarship, like pursuing self-funded higher education abroad, and to be the next generations of policymakers and opinion leaders, as aligned as this program's goals is to motivate the students to explore options for degree study in the U.S. and building a strong, secure, prosperous Indo-Pacific region in partnership with the U.S. So I guess that's all for this evening. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you Isabella, Kate, and At America team. Bye-bye.
Bye.
One. And the right answer is true. The California legislature banned it for students under 15 and ordered high schools to limit it for older students. However, the law was taken off the books in 1917. But unfortunately, nobody got the answers right this time, so better luck next time. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Easy. You can go to our website at www.atamerica.or.id, click create an event, and collaborate with us. All proposals coming to us will be reviewed, and your event might be featured here soon. And while you're on our website, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletters for weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. All right, everybody, I think that wraps up this episode. It has been really fun, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye for now. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at ATAmerica for event updates, fun content, and so much more. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great day. We'll see you again soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.